know that quite a lot of you guys, you fancy Celtic music, but let's face it, we all love Celtic music, don't we? And I see that you've made it to the end of yet another video of mine.
Okay. Hey everyone, the name's Erik Thor, and welcome to my live stream on the cognitive functions. I see we already have quite a nice crowd over here. Uh, hey everyone, how is everyone doing? Um, what's happening over at your places? Hey Yanni, hey Josephine, and hey Jennifer. So we have an ENFP and INTJ here. That's cool. That's cool. So today's topic is going to be about the cognitive functions and their secrets and whatever that entails. Oh, we're gonna get a crowd here. Ben Jackson, Patrick Dugan, Hala Hamid, Jos. It's good to see all of you. So I'm calling this stream the cognitive function secrets because like no matter how many times you go back to reading Carl Jung and studying his theories, and there's always more to learn, there's always more to find out about the theories in themselves. There is so much we don't know yet, there's so much we misunderstood, there's so much that we need to keep on exploring, and we need to first and foremost we need to explore the connections between Carl Jung's old theories. He developed this in the 20th century, and modern psychology and modern neuroscience. I had the pleasure of working together with Christian Johansson over at Neojungian typology, and his approach in many ways was that the human mind was like a computer in a way. That if you look at it from the neuroscientific standpoint, from neurobiology, we have all these kinds of processes in our mind that interact in different ways with each other's. Processes that let us know how the human mind works, and that create this process of learning about learning new information, understanding how things work, understanding what's happening around us. Carl Jung was one of the first, I think, to tackle the topic of if the mind has different mental processes. He coined the terms extroverted and introverted. He coined the terms sensing, intuition, thinking, and feeling. Well, actually, people have used variations of these terms before, but he was one of the first to develop them into a psychological theory about human behavior. So in today's stream, I'm going to talk about him, and I'm going to talk about one of the major misunderstandings of his theory. So first of all, what I want to show you all is that there's a difference between what has happened after the start of Myers-Briggs type indicator and what Carl Jung attempted to do. Carl Jung himself never used the MBTI. I'm not sure he even took a personality test in the MBTI. What he meant to explore was simply different ways of thinking, different expressions, the ways of categorizing and boxing people in that is used in the Myers-Briggs type indicator. That was never his attempt. He simply wanted to explain to a wife the mental setup of her husband, help people understand each other. That was the core goal, and that's my goal as well. My primary goal is to just make sure people understand each other's better, not to label people or to put people in a specific type box. Hey, Michael. The cognitive functions developed by Carl Jung also apply to different personality types than in the Myers-Briggs type indicator. What you can say has happened when Isabella Briggs came was that, Carl Jung, he spoke about introversion and extroversion, but Isabella Briggs, she ended up inventing a completely new dichotomy, which she called judging and perceiving. And the judging and perceiving is completely her work and how she uses it to divide people into different cognitive models is completely different from how Carl Jung did it or saw it. Judging and perceiving in many ways correlate to if we have more organized ways of understanding information, or if we have processes that are more multilinear, more adaptive, more flexible. You all recognize this, right? There's right, you've probably all seen this picture here, the INFJ. This one was made very popular many years ago by a guy named Dave Superpowers, who was trying to create something, but I don't know what happened to him or what happened to his works. At least this is the classic Myers-Briggs perspective. The INFJ has introverted intuition, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, and extroverted sensing. But this is not necessarily how Carl Jung saw it. Carl Jung operated with, in many ways, that a person had a person's top two functions in many ways were introverted, and that in many ways the extroverted was the counterpart to the introverted. Intuition was the counterpart to sensing, feeling was the counterpart to thinking, and so on and so on. And most of all, the definitions he used for introverted intuition and extroverted feeling is quite different. If you go to the cognitiveprocesses.com website and look at, for example, extroverted feeling, you have here a definition of extroverted feeling, that extroverted feeling is about wanting to connect or disconnect from other people. And it's about expressing warmth or displeasure. And it's about being polite, being nice, being friendly, being considerate, and being appropriate. It's about keeping in touch, laughing at jokes when other people laugh, and trying to get people to act kindly to each others. And using this process, we respond according to the needs of what other people need, what other people want. Looking at introverted feeling, contrastingly, introverted feeling in the Myers-Briggs perspective is about, in many ways, judgments associated with images, feelings, tones, and gut reactions. It's about a filter for information that matches what is valued, wanted, or worth believing in. There can be a continual weighing of situational worth or importance of everything, and a patient balancing of the core issues of peace and conflict in life situations. We engage in the process of introverted feeling when a value is compromised and we think sometimes things just have to be said. So often my core issues with these new definitions is that they are in many ways alternatives to Carl Jung's. These traits here in FI describe ENFPs and INFPs, ESFPs and ISFPs. But in Carl Jung's works, they were primarily meant to reference INFPs or ISFPs. They could also potentially even represent INFJs or ISFJs. For Carl Jung, extroverted feeling can be described as the interest in how people feel and understanding of what people value and like. Extroverted feelers are concerned with social connections, relations, and bonds with people and animals. Extroverted feeling types are gifted at social interactions and interpersonal relations. They're good at fitting in and reading people. Carl Jung spoke much of extroverted feeling as what was suitable or proper. The extroverted feeling types had strong values, but often decided to make these values more objective and a part of the mainstream culture. How should we all feel? What is the right way to think about life's matters? The extroverted feeling type has an active way of feeling. They express high warmth and passion. They demonstrate their feelings to others, and they desire emotional input and reception from other people. Hey, Emil. Jung spoke of how this function manifested in a need for a suitable way to feel. The extroverted feeling type wants their emotions to be appropriate and towards the right person in the right age. If a person asks themselves what's normal and so on, I think that's often an extroverted feeling question in itself. It troubles the extroverted feeling type when their feelings aren't, when their feelings are more banal or weird. And because of this, extroverted feelers spend much time discussing their emotions and how they feel and whether their feelings are appropriate or not. Questions of what is normal and what's beautiful and what's good are important to these types. Like, you can all recognize these things in ENFJs and ESFJs, but I would argue that you can also recognize some of these questions in ENFPs and ESFPs. With introverted feeling, Carl Jung described introverted feeling types as emotionally deep and intense. Still waters run deep in these types, he wrote. Introverted feelers were difficult to read and often hid most of their feelings to themselves. They were often engaged in introspection, reflecting on their personal feelings and values, and thinking about what things mean to them. Often, the introverted feeling type express little warmth to strangers. The introverted feeling types often appear indifferent to other people. The introverted feeling type has a critical perspective on people and mainstream culture, and little interest of participating in it. Instead, these types tend to love others from a distance. These types may actually show a lot of consideration to other people, but more in what they don't do than in what they do towards others. You could say that the introverted feeling type has a peaceful, non-interventionist temperament. They would rather not hurt or damage others and mostly try to stay out of people's business. And introverted feeling types make little effort to reveal themselves or their personality to others. And while this type rarely makes any active effort to influence others, their very being and their identity has a tendency to shake others up. Other people find themselves captivated by finding out what this type is feeling, and spend tremendous effort digging into these types' values, stories, and inner feelings. And so this type ends up having an influence in the world, whether if this was their intention or not. So what I'm arguing here is that this process more accurately describes not just INFPs and ISFPs, but also INFJs and ISFJs. If you would say that introverted feeling was a function, an intelligence or something you could develop, I think it would be intrapersonal intelligence, the awareness of yourself and who you are. And I think that's one of the things that introverts and feeling types tend to have the most of. If you would look at extroverted feeling, what would happen if you practiced your extroverted feeling and developed it? What would happen is that your interpersonal intelligence would grow. You would become better at understanding other people and what other people are thinking and how other people work. So if these concepts don't apply to if extroverted feeling doesn't apply to the INFJ or the ISFJ as much as it applies to the ENFP or the ESFP, then what is it that Myers-Briggs is talking about? Why do they say that INFJs have extroverted feeling and that ENFPs have introverted feeling? if we go to my website here, this is a little old content. I definitely want to update it soon, but I think this is the process that the Myers-Briggs is talking about. To be a feeling perceiver is to quickly brainstorm up to 5 different reasons someone said they wanted mac and cheese for dinner. This is, of course, a joke example I thought of, but I think that overall, the feeling perceiving types, what the ENFPs have, what the ESFPs have, what ISFPs and INFPs have, is a sensitive emotional instrument. This is what drives gut reactions or an inner feeling that something appears to be out of place. It's reading the situation and what's happening around you and balancing and weighing your emotions and how you react to what other people say. It's about considering what other people say and why they said it. The goal is to identify harmony and disharmony rather than to see if something is logical or accurate. Does the story someone is telling you match the kind of person they seem to be? Does the message seem to be authentic? Are their values aligned with yours? This is kind of the intelligence of a reporter, someone who is interpreting what other people are saying through the feeling function, through the process of the default mode network in the mind. It's in many ways about authenticating what other people say, confirming if what they said was true or not, if it was authentic or not. Exactly, Betanilo, why INFJs have phi rather than INTJs. It's not that this... the problem is that the Myers-Briggs type indicator and Isabella Briggs has gone to Carl Jung's works, and they've taken Carl Jung's concepts and they've put them in the new perceiving and judging dichotomy. They've taken they've taken introverted feeling and they've put it in as a feeling, perceiving function. They've given it to the perceiving types rather than the judging types, in particular the feeling perceiving types or the feeling judging types. So what they ended up doing was they ended up describing something else than what Carl Jung intended to describe. If you think about it, this is a very common thing to happen. It's very common that we set out to explore something and we end up exploring something completely different. That's the most common thing I think that can happen to a lot of intuitives. So much research has been done because we went in with one theory or with one goal, but we ended up landing somewhere completely different. The issue, I think, is that people didn't notice this shift. They began slowly rewriting Jung's definitions, and they started describing feeling judging, extroverted feeling as managing groups, managing people, and they started dividing feeling perceiving as listening and about authenticating what things other people said. And we started creating new definitions for everything. We started remodeling it to fit with what did the stream die? No, it seems to be working. Yeah, it's working fine. Anyways, moving on to feeling and judging here. Feeling and judging is to be in the role of a messenger or to be a representative for some form of moral law or a belief system. It's in many ways, to me, feeling and judging what INFJs do, what ISFJs do, what ESFJs do, and ENFJs do, is to organize social dynamics, to organize people, to organize groups, to come up with social and moral system, to in many ways craft tales, analyze intentions, decide what is most likely in every situation socially, what social action is the best to take in every situation. it's about being proactive with your feeling function rather than to be introverted or extroverted with it. It's about being linear, to be goal-oriented, to be organized, to be directed with how you feel and what you think. So you could say it's to live in accordance with your values and beliefs. And I think that sums up INFJ or ISFJ's core issues pretty well. That question of does this fit with my... Right, yeah. Maybe the internet is not perfect sometimes, but it should work fine. Yeah. Essentially what I've done is I've taken Carl Jung's original definitions and I've created 8 cognitive functions based on this. Well, it's his traditional functions. It's introverted feeling, introverted intuition, extroverted feeling, extroverted intuition. But then I've taken Myers-Briggs ones and I've kind of separated them from Carl Jung's so that there is a feeling perceiving function and a feeling judging function, an intuitive perceiving function and an intuitive judging function. Going back to cognitive processes for a bit, you have your extrovert intuition, and it's so much of extrovert intuition. The biggest change of extrovert intuition after Myers-Briggs came was redefining it as a creative function. From Carl Jung's perspective, it was so much more about pattern recognition, recognizing potential. Here it says that extrovert intuition involves noticing hidden meanings and interpreting them, often entertaining a wealth of possible interpretations from just one idea. And it involves seeing things as if, with various possible representations of reality. Using this process, we can juggle many different ideas, thoughts, beliefs, and meanings in our mind at once, with the possibility that they are all true. This is like weaving themes and threads together. We don't know the weave until a thread appears or is drawn out in the interaction of thoughts. One second. So we have a question for Emil about struggled with being an INFJ. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I try not to say that INFJs have it worse than other personality types, because I think that all personality types have their share of dilemmas and issues. And I try to be wary of saying that it's worse because I can't know how it is to be another personality type. But there are a lot of INFJ issues, and I talked about it a little in a post I wrote today. I talked about the INFJ's main issues, if you would say so, common INFJ problems and the ESTP shadow. And for me, like the biggest issues are fighting against restlessness and from like being distracted all the time by things you can't control, being caught off guard. In some ways, it's being sensitive is a challenge. Being true to yourself, not like not putting on a facade, or like not acting tough, or not being greedy in a sense, not trying to balance relationships in a good way. I think that's one of the core issues for me as well. And maintaining control and independence in a way, not being reckless. Like there's tons of issues. You can read a post later if you want to. Yeah. Back to the question of extroverted intuition and Carl Jung's theories. Extroverted intuition is like a hunch or a sudden awareness of a pattern in the presence. The sudden awareness that someone is lying or that something is hidden. Jung argued that extroverted intuitives were driven by emerging possibilities, new things that were happening in each given moment. The extroverted intuitive is always where possibilities are, he would write. The extroverted intuitive never exists in a stasis, but is always pursuing new things. This intuitive may pursue something with intense excitement, but when he has it, he finds it meaningless. The extrovert intuitive has a sense of contagious enthusiasm and is great for building excitement for a new idea. But what was initially seen as liberating may soon strike the extrovert intuitive as a prison. So the extroverted intuitive acts like the promoter to new opportunities, the ones that start the first push towards something. They are also the liberators from old prisons and from old information. The extrovert intuitive type inspires others to chase new projects, but Jung warns that he or she is at risk of pursuing and giving opportunities to everyone else while kind of neglecting their own long-term happiness and satisfaction. The extrovert intuitive has learned that what they want is not things in themselves that will only numb them, but the potential of the things. And things are always full of potential. Actually, that's not his words. The last part there is what I kind of filled in there. But if you develop extroverted intuition, you'll find yourself quickly noticing patterns around you. You spot connections that others miss, and you would quickly fill in missing information that other people left out. Often, like I said in the intuitive perceiving perspective, is that Myers-Briggs has redefined intuitive perceiving as generating options. Maybe that or that or that or that or that. That's the intuitive perceiving process. Constantly brainstorming and juggling different ideas. It's often, and this is the key reason I can argue that there is a difference between these two things. When I was studying neuroscience with Christian Johansson at Neojungian typology, we noticed two particular processes. We noticed that there were extroverted and introverted processes in neuroscience. In particular, the bottom-up process of dealing with the information from the five senses, dealing with emerging information that is coming to you at the moment. Or top-down processing, which is drawing from your memory, from your thoughts, different opinions, thoughts, sensations, and using this top-down process, this introverted process, to direct yourself inwards rather than outwards. But beyond this, there was also a judging and perceiving process in neuroscience. There was a process that was more proactive, called proactive control. And there was a process that was more reactive, called reactive control. There's the proactive process is in many ways about linearity. It's about following or working towards a long-term goal. It's about avoiding temptations and distractions on the way to that goal. It's about the fact that you become more and more excited, more and more interested the longer you work on something. Perceiving, on the other hand, reactive control is a lot more about becoming more interested more easily by new ideas. When something new emerges, finding that in itself more rewarding than your long-term goal. Perceiving type is much more flexible to new information. Should something new be brought up, the perceiving type is able to take it in more quickly and consider it more quickly. How I come to see it, judging types are much more focused on directing other people or moving people towards a certain goal, where perceiving types are much better at balancing information, weighing information, testing different options. what about this possibility or this possibility? Or maybe this possibility, showing people different options available, showing people what different steps we could take towards a goal, showing people new opportunities that are emerging, going, hey guys, look at that over there, or maybe we could go over there. Often the judging process is about deciding in many ways which option is then the best or most likely, which one is the best from the long-term perspective, where the perceiving type's interest is more about making sure no option is missed, that if there is a chance to something new, to make sure that people aren't stubbornly pursuing this old idea at the expense of this new possibility. So, is it possible for an ENTP to have an INFJ-like side to them? The interesting thing, first, there's quite a few people who define themselves as ENTPs that I've noticed show patterns that suggest that they are more likely to be INFJs, which is interesting in itself. But I think that the reason for this is because, like I said, INFJs have some issues with how thinking and perceiving and extroversion and thinking manifests itself. Some INFJ problems revolve around like the desire to win or to act tough, and I think the INTP subtype for the INFJ can appear like the ENTP. I think that it truly depends, however, if usually this person must be going more and more towards ESTP rather than INTP. That this person is more concerned with their shadow projection of themselves, that they are so concerned with, acting tough and acting strong and smart and impressing other people, because this is a true like INFJ issue, like wanting to impress other people too much, wanting to get recognition and to be admired by others. So it's not too strange. If it is the same for an ENTP in reverse, well, the ENTP's shadow type is the ISFJ, so all you have to do is flip the intuition and sensing. Do you feel like an alien forced to listen to wordless sensor speech every day, feeling misunderstood and maybe incomprehensible? Sensors can also be mind-numbing to me. Oh yeah, here's a good question. Is there any difference in life satisfaction between judging types and perceiving types? Is it better to pursue long-term goals, or is it just a red herring milestone we should discard? Is one type wiser? I think that perhaps in the Western society, I think judging has become overvalued over perceiving. I think that, but there are exceptions to this. Definitely, a lot of exceptions to this. Like, for example, the thing that we should always constantly be available to other people, always connected, always ready to answer the phone. I think that there are lots of distractions that benefit perceiving types, but I think the long term, the whole thing that everyone is supposed to know what they want to study and do for the rest of their life when they're 15, like even as a judging type, it's hard to know that. So in some ways, I think that long-term goal types are more rewarded today, and a reason I would argue this is also because of like the prevalence of the ADHD diagnosis. And not saying here that ADHD isn't a real issue. Of course it is. Today it is. So if it, in today's society, it definitely is. Maybe there are also some issues behind it, real issues. But on the whole, with society and how society works today, I think that a lot of people are starting to become diagnosed by ADHD just because it's very hard to keep up with how organized and everything has to be. So, Leica, asks a question here. This is the last one. I'll continue with intuitive perceiving and intuitive judging. How can NI and NE clash with each other's, and on the other hand, complement each other's? Well, the interesting thing, and I use the definition. I think I'll use the definition of intuitive judging here versus intuitive perceiving, since you said INFJ, INTP. The intuitive judging type can, when the intuitive perceiving type goes, what about this option or this option or this option? The intuitive judging type has this gift of predicting which option is the most likely to be right. Intuitive judging types can put these different options that the intuitive perceiving type has produced, and they can go, this is the best option. The intuitive perceiving type can take this long-term goal, and they can go, but what about this option or this option? And like Michael Silverstein says, I've made a video towards this. Yeah, I grabbed the links. That's great. Thanks. In the workplace, like with flexibility, we're asking people so many, like employers are starting to ask workers so many silly things that they shouldn't be asking their employees to begin with. Sometimes giving people flexibility is not always like giving them safety or giving them the opportunity to pursue long-term goals. If everything is about short-term projects nowadays, if you have to constantly work only 2 weeks at a time on a project, or if you don't know if you're going to be left at the workplace for more than a week, then why would you start working on a long-term project then? It can kill motivation for a lot of judging types. Okay, so what is intuitive perceiving compared to intuitive judging? I'm still using the term the rebel here, even though Mike argued I shouldn't. I should definitely change it. But here is what the Myers-Briggs does. It changed Carl Jung's definition to be more towards creativity, and it's about considering what possible pieces could come next, thinking up multiple ways to solve a problem. It's finding options to everything. It's to know how to bounce something off something else, from there to there to there to there. Like often when we paint up extrovert intuition, we do it as a supernova, or we do it as some kind of person jumping from platform to platform or drawing lines between things. So this is the Myers-Briggs definition. It's in many ways about intuition, the imagination network. It's about reactive control. It's about adaptivity in intuition. It's those are the core like neuroscientific processes. Taking intuitive judging, however, intuitive judging is often painted up as a black hole in a way. Wait a second here. Oh wait, maybe that page doesn't exist. There we go. The link is just a little off. So this is also, so as I said, a placeholder article that should be updated a little, but it's about the desire of a holistic, coherent system of ideas and theories. It's about testing ideas against each other, building a system of ideas, if you may. It's relying on big picture thinking to judge ideas and deductions about the world. It's about predicting how likely an event is. It's about organizing and controlling like your intuition, using it towards a goal in particular. I often say that intuition and judging types, they are goal-oriented types, but they don't really know what their goal is. And if they knew what their goal is, they wouldn't pursue it. Sensing judging types, they know exactly what their goal is, and they would keep. The more they know about it, the more likely they are to pursue it. But intuitive judging types, we are interested in a goal because we don't know where it will lead. Um, it's about the imagination network and the proactive control network, and I think it's the core theory when I tried to formulate that was a little to be lost, and when you because you want to go towards this goal, you have no idea where you're going to go, but you have this goal in mind at the same time, and you want to follow this path towards this goal. So I think to feel completely lost, you always want to have a basic idea of this is probably the right way, this is probably the right next step, this is the most likely way to get where I want, this is probably the best way to walk. You want to have this idea or basic idea or deduction about where you're going. So not having that can be difficult. I should of course take up the introvert intuition definition as well, and introvert intuition involves synthesizing seemingly paradoxical or contradictory to take understanding to a new level. Using this process, we can have moments when completely new, unimagined realizations come to us. And here's something that has created so much, I think, misunderstanding. That aha moment. Because seriously, I think all of us have had that moment from time to time, and I don't think that it's necessarily introverted intuition that gives us that feeling. When you figure something out, that's not necessarily through the use of introvert intuition. And so people go, I hear so many people from all kinds of types go, oh, I had an introvert intuition once, or I had an insight, or I got an insight just much recently. It's kind of an interesting misunderstanding that has gotten so popular. I do like the word insight for introvert intuitives because it's inwards sight, the inwards perception. It's carries the definition of grabbing something or realizing something, but the reason it's been misunderstood is because there are so many variations of this. There are so many different forms of it, and sometimes you get it. Sometimes it's almost sometimes it mixes things up with discernment and with introverted feeling and introverted thinking, for example, because introverted feeling types can also go suddenly they just understand something about someone, or they come to like this realization of, oh, this is who I am, or this is what I want to do in my life, or they have like this moment where they feel this profound self-understanding. Or maybe introverted thinking, you realize this answer to a problem you've been wrestling for a long time. It's there are variations of this. So insight, I think the best definition of the word insight is something most introverted functions get. Even introverted sensing can suddenly remember something profound and go like, oh yeah, that time when I was there, that happened again. So insight is just in many ways something introverts get. Okay, so something I could also bring up is the question of the imagination network compared to the saliency network, sensing and intuition, and the default mode network. We did find processes in neuroscience that were related to intuition, sensing, feeling, and thinking. The imagination network best is like what I named the frontopolar network. It's very influenced in complex thought and in thinking of new idea, or like thinking of something in an unusual way, like coming up with a different way to explain something, or like coming up with a new perspective of something, or thinking counterfactually, like even if you know something is in a certain way, being able to think about it in other ways. That's what you do when you use the frontopolar network in the mind. The saliency network is the best definition of sensing that I've found. It's the network we use when we deal with something important that just happened around us. We suddenly noticed that the light was too strong and we moved to shut it off. We saw a car coming and we moved to avoid it. The saliency network, what sensors use in many ways, is about information from our five senses, and it's about responding to information from those five senses, organizing information, sensory information, about brains. It's like adjusting to something. If a tennis ball comes flying towards you, being able to bounce it back. We have some discussions here. Do more ENFP videos. I will. Looking forward to it. Nye is like adding dots to the dots of ideas, like a spider web. Intuitive judging persons tend to follow an unknown path by taking steps they don't always understand. I'm gonna try to get something up here. Well, I think that often people tend to say the spiderweb analogy fits better for intuitive perceiving, because often it's but often it's because they tend to see introvert intuition more like a mesh in a sense. And I can understand the spiderweb metaphor, but like more like perspective, like looking at something from a filter in a way. Convergence and divergence. That's a good definition. Yeah. I can definitely link a stream. It's my own personality test, of course. I have to plug it, of course. It has definitions of the first 8 intelligence. Four of these are from Carl Jung's variations, and some of them are from Myers-Briggs definitions, Isabella Briggs definitions. I can bring this one up a little for a bit. So I've begun exploring the cognitive functions, and in particular started with exploring and mapping out the introverted and extroverted functions and what the difference between introverted and extroverted functions is. I've explored the definitions of introversion and extroversion. I've talked here about top-down processing and bottom-up processing, and about what drives us to be introverted and extroverted. So if anyone is curious to learn more about these thoughts or topics, you're more than welcome to check out the book that I put up, and I'll put up the link to that as well. It goes for about $17 to $20, so it's not that much. It's about 55 pages, so feel free to check it out if you want. Right. So finally, the personality test. I want to definitely update this more again, but this one includes introvert intuition and extrovert intuition, extroverted sensing and introverted sensing. But it also includes feeling and perceiving, and feeling and judging, thinking and perceiving, and thinking and judging. So this is kind of mapping out your first two letters, IN or EN, ES or EIS, and then your last two letters. If you're a feeling perceiving, thinking judging, thinking perceiving, or feeling judging test type. So this is a really accurate test, really. Like if we look at statistics, I found that the statistics are so far very consistent for this personality test. So it seems to be doing really well. So I definitely recommend this test. And I also want to include it for the other 8 functions beyond this. That is introverted feeling, extroverted feeling, introverted thinking, extroverted thinking, sensing perceiving, sensing judging, intuitive perceiving, and intuitive judging. And I have kind of, but I haven't completed them yet. So they definitely need a little more work before I want to release them. Okay, so yeah, that concludes the end of what I wanted to talk about in this video. And are there any thoughts or questions you'd like to bring up before I end the stream? You're more than welcome to bring it up. Thanks, Farah. Glad you liked it. And like I said, I've got a lot more content coming very soon, so I will send that out as soon as that's ready. Yes, that is the Star Wars poster in the background. It's my famous Star Wars poster. I've had it up in so many videos. People must think I'm the worst kind of nerd of Star Wars possible, and well, it's all true. It's all true. I'm a Star Wars nerd. I even have some kind of Star Wars 3D glasses. Actually, I can't find it right now, but never mind. Why can NE be so addictive? Well, because it's so fun. The enthusiasm is so contagious, and the playfulness with ideas, and how you seem to do things that are so outrageous in a way. Like it feels so counterintuitive to me as an intuitive judging type. That's crazy to me. After studying the functions, I'm an INFJ, strong FE and TI. My problem still is I can't understand much of my NI, especially if it's my dominant function. Shouldn't I be using it actively all the time? Well, yeah, like introvert intuition is your core interest, what gives you the most energy, like what balances you, what centers you. If extroverted intuition for an INFJ kind of brings us out of our center, or how we naturally like to process information, we prefer to theorize than investigate. We prefer to think about how something works rather than to look up and test out how it works. That's how it is for an INFJ. NI centers and balances us. Theorizing gives us this sense of calm and peace and this sense of understanding that is so important. Elizabeth Powell asks if I'm interested in philosophy as well as psychology. Actually, I would call myself a philosophy major. Well, I studied rhetoric, but rhetoric and its nature is so intimately tied to philosophy that it's basically it's like the philosophy of communication. It's bridges into Aristotle, it bridges into so much of the ancient Greek philosophies and so many different theories on language, Lacan, and I don't know, all kinds of crazy philosophers. So it's always been a huge interest of me to learn about philosophy and to explore philosophical topics. I consider introvert intuition the philosophical process. Not to say ENFPs and ENTPs can't love philosophy as well, but the process of philosophizing I find as most native to the INFJs and the INFPs and INTPs and INTJs. Okay, so if there are no more questions, I guess I will start ending the stream now. And I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. And as I end, I will put on some music by my friend Mark Youngerman, a really great musician, composer who I met, who lives in Uppsala, who makes great stuff. So do check out his work, and I hope you all enjoyed this stream, and I will remain in chat to answer any questions you might have for a while more. And yeah, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you had a good time.
I see that you've made it to the end of yet another